afternoon. This is Cindy Lou coming to you live from Just Pray Over It in beautiful Tennessee. Helping your inner child is a process, right? Childhood brings to light the future. Isn't the future adult going to suffer if you don't address it head on? Especially if you don't forgive? First, look at the entire situation as if you're in a helicopter as a child. You don't realize what truly happens behind closed doors. I myself realized it just wasn't my father's fault for drinking and beating, and what was his cause? It truly wasn't just the pain or addiction, which I know were all major factors. It was the wife. It was him trying to make someone else happy that was miserable, and she took it out on all of us, whether she knew it or not. She would go to work and have the sweetest of monotones. Everyone loved and came to her. But she'd come home and treat my father and us as if we were dirt. She left us more times than I can count and tried to kill herself even more so. I remember visiting her in the hospital she actually worked at, yet no one said a word about it. No one. It was like a dirty little secret that was swept under the rug. My sister and I were just talking about how that was always just never talked about in the home or at her work. All which resulted in my preteen years to look more like this: an increasing withdrawal of need, unresolved differences, unasked questions and answers, isolation, becoming so quiet sometimes you didn't even know I was there. It affected the ability to get close, communicate, or sustain relationships. But it also affected the parenting abilities. My mother caused huge financial inabilities to allow my father to manage money, always trying just to please her. But he also became financially problematic, always because he couldn't do it. He couldn't give her everything she wanted, so he'd run up the credit cards, and when he did so, he was always looking for that big payday. So he gambled at the dog track. I remember being 15 years old and my father taking me with him to the track, telling them I was 18 years old. So if he got too drunk, I could drive him home. He had me make my first $2 bet on the dogs. He got me my first alcoholic beverage, and my mother gave me my first cigarette. When I look back, I was set up to fail. I didn't think I deserved anything any better. So you can only imagine after high school, I went from the frying pan to the fire. But that's a story for another day. As I was talking to some of my friends from high school after my first 3 podcasts, I just knew where and what and how this podcast was going to go. But some of their stories were just as dark, if not darker than mine. All from middle class and upper middle class Florida homes. You would never suspect those parents in a million years. Like our dad, who had the playground put in. They were all well known. They were pillars of the community. But some hid the damage. Some thrived and some ran. Some had to go through the fire and come out of it. I thank God every day that I found God and my salvation. The second time a gun was held to my head. It shouldn't have even taken that long. But we never went to church. I got on a bus one Sunday after begging my parents to go to church. Finally, they caved. Only if I brought my little brother, they said. My sister at that time was still too young. We were so excited because we'd get candy for getting on the bus, first of all. And secondly, I was promised a Bible if I memorized Psalm 23, "The Lord is my shepherd." I would stay up all night anyway, so it truly wasn't that much of a problem. Then they gave me my first Bible, a King James Version. I still have that Bible to this day, and that church still stands strong to this day in Boynton at First Baptist Church, right across from the old post office. There was no I-95. We rode our bikes now to elementary school. I'll never forget the day that I was hit on the back wheel of my bike. I fell in front of Bruce's house. Oh, I thought he was something else. His blonde hair. His dad was a fireman. His mom always had the smell of cookies coming out of her house when we would ride our bikes by. But when I got hit, she came running out. My knees were all bleeding and my elbows all scraped up. And she came over and she noticed that the person that hit the back wheel had to try and go around me and accidentally ran over my hand and my fingers. My fingernail was hanging off and I had a very severe cut on my finger. She called my father after she brought me in and tried to get the bleeding under control. I remember being at her kitchen sink and she gave me a cookie. I was eating the cookie with one hand while she had my hand in the sink. She had to call my dad, and of course, he was drunk. But she told him I needed to go to the hospital. They wrapped my finger up to stop the bleeding. My dad came, took me to our family doctor with a bike in the back of our station wagon. I look down at my finger and still see the scar to this day. It's just another reminder of how mad he was. Not worried. I got such a spanking. I forgot until recently. Those were actually my first stitches. I thought something else was my first stitches. I can still smell the doctor's office now. It smelled like rubbing alcohol. And the nurse in her white starched dress and that hat, and the shot was actually the worst in the finger. After that, I didn't feel much. Well, all along, I thought my first stitches were in high school, after my best friend and I were actually running to the old station wagon. I had these cool wood platform shoes. They look like sandals from Candy's, downtown in Delray. My sister had just bought them for me. The straps were all leather in different colors. I sure didn't want them to get wet, so I put them in my gym bag. And we were running through the parking lot to the car, and of course, I would be the one that would find the only pop top in the parking lot that was facing up. So my foot was really bleeding, much worse than we thought. We tried using my gym socks as a tourniquet and one to cover the bottom of my foot to stop the bleeding, but it didn't work. It was actually bleeding all over the floorboard. We had to go to the hospital where my mother worked. So I parked the car right at the front doors. And the candy stripers were freaking out. And so were myself and my best friend. But not for long. The fact that I was bleeding, well, we'll get into that shortly. It wasn't the fact that I was bleeding. That's not why we were freaking out. So I politely asked for my mother, and a page echoed through the hospital, not once, but twice. And they called her extension. And here appeared this well-dressed woman, not a hair out of place, perfect manicure, and you could hear her heels echoing on the tile throughout the entire hospital. Not with, "Are you okay?" I got, "You're getting blood everywhere. What happened?" I told her, but at this point, the candy stripers already had me in a wheelchair and said I needed to go to the ER. It was a severe cut. I needed stitches. Oh, the fear, not of the stitches, of everything else. "I'll call your father. Take her to the ER. All the while, I'm worried about my best friend. You see, her dad and my dad were like-minded and very much alike. You better be home on time or else. They both drank a lot and usually at the same local bar. Most of the guys went there, including some of our high school teachers. That day, I begged my father to call my best friend's father so she wouldn't get in trouble and tell him how much she helped me. What would have happened to me if not for her? I also asked him to bring her home. To this day, the memories I have with her are the fondest memories of high school. We're still friends on Facebook. It took me a while to find her because she had gotten married. She looked great. We met up about 2.5, 3 years ago down in South Florida, not far from our old stomping grounds. And we sat by the Intercoastal and had lunch, and we talked for hours. It was as if a beat never had missed, never stopped. Her one daughter looks exactly like her when she was in high school. She's still the kindest of souls. And if you're listening to this, you know who you are. And thank you for my memories and all my escapes in that station wagon with you. I'll never forget them. As far as the rest of my elementary years, They were fairly much the same as the prior podcast, until about 5th grade, when I truly started to enjoy reading and especially writing. I remember starting a book, which I continued with throughout the 8th grade. I never knew what became of it. I think my parents threw it away in the garbage. Next time, we will talk more about middle school, escape, and responsibilities that were way too much for any 12-year-old. For now, this is Cindy Lou, signing off from beautiful Tennessee. I want everybody to have a blessed day, and please remember why my husband and I do these podcasts. We truly want to help battered and displaced women and children. They might be just a paycheck away from being on the streets. They might be battered because they don't believe they deserve any better. So please click on the PayPal link and make a donation. We are a nonprofit organization. We don't get paid. We just want to build a safe place for the children and for the women. Even $1 helps someone. Thank you and God bless.